Hello and welcome to another Lighthouse Wellness Community podcast. My name is Donald McCone.
My name is Frank O'Connor. This program is designed to encourage open conversation around wellness, mindfulness and healing. As part of the Irish diaspora, Donna and I would like to bring an Irish dimension to this conversation. Our hope is to break through the stigma around mental health issues and bring awareness to the many ways of recovery and to a healthy way of life.
And thank you for joining us. We see from our figures that more and more of you are joining us. And if you have comments, we always appreciate those, whether it's at the bottom of our podcast on the audio boom, or indeed on our Facebook page, or indeed our YouTube kind of station as well. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, folks, and welcome again once again this week. And thank you for the privilege for us guys being able to do this and share on a weekly basis with everybody.
I know that we mentioned it last week. We'll mention it again, Frank, where we're coming from, why we're doing it. And I suppose it's the personal experience and somebody saying, have you ever thought, or can I help you? That's the kind of point that I've come from. And I think it's much the same with you.
Yeah, very much. As two guys in our 60s, we've lived lengthy lives. According to many of our friends, didn't make it, and we're still here. So we wanted to bring. I mean, my take was, as I'm going into retirement age, I wanted to share what I learned. You know, what I'd learned down through the years, and there were some incredible mistakes made on my part. But out of those mistakes came great learning, and then the wanting to become a teacher towards the end of my life, as opposed to being a learner all through it up to now.
And that's fair enough. And I'm learning from you, and I suppose you're learning from me
Vice
too,
versa.
in a way.
Absolutely.
And none of it, I know that this is true with you, and I believe it with myself. It's not that you or I think that we're superior in any way. It's just that it's a sharing of an experience that allows a wider conversation. And if it does only that, it's worth doing.
Yeah, very much coming from what have I learned from my own experience. So when I talk about, and when you talk about our experience, we're talking about this is legitimately what happened to me and what it's like now as a result of some of the things that happened to me. Then finally for me to, as a meditation teacher, I wanted to bring that, bring that to the table as well, because so many of the issues that I've had to deal with have responded incredibly well to the meditation experience.
So we're going to talk about something that affects all of us in daily lives, some to a greater degree than others, and to others it's a kind of a little bullet to move us forward, as it were, a little shake to get us going. Stress. Who needs it?
Yeah, stress is a good one. I'm going to quote Alan Watts here for a moment. Alan Watts said, "All stress is internally created. No situation can cause you stress unless you allow it." That's a pretty drastic, broad statement, and I'm sure many folks will immediately come in with, well, if I find myself in a car accident or something really bad happens, that's going to cause me stress. And let's allow for that for a moment. But what we're talking about is how much of it is actually internally created, regardless of the situation. And we talked earlier, Donna, about the messages that we received, for example, as children growing up, and what that programming then became internally. And then I react out of that space. And that thinking or wrong thinking or different thinking or crazy thinking has caused much pain and much stress, certainly in my life.
And certainly those things that you're told since you're young, they're stress-inducing. And that's not quite the same as the creators of stress. You allow them to, when you're young, because you've got no defense mechanism. You just take it all on board, don't you? You got to get that done because so-and-so's coming. You got to get that done because the teacher wants you to have it done. You got to get this done because your friends will think this about you. So that that's the kind of initial, immediate experience of stress, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Ireland, the word, I used to always love the one, well, it's gospel truth. Why is it gospel? Because either my dad said it or Father Murphy said it. And that's the only criteria that we need. And difficult I found it difficult as a teenager in particular to question that. It took much later, much later, for me to get to a situation saying, not so sure I buy into some of the things, most of the things that I was led to believe were absolute truth.
Well, we've come from that kind of gentler time in historic terms compared to people growing up today in many other ways, because there is a lot more stress with a lot more information coming in from a lot different sources that are pushing you, as well as your family. Your family was the for me, even though there was stress within that, was the actual boundary and barrier from outside. These days you don't have as many of those boundaries. You're hit by Facebook, you're hit by Twitter, you're hit by television, you're hit by radio, you're hit impacted in so many different ways. So the stress, that stress that we're saying we should really think about, is coming in many forms, but we have to get to a point where we realize that we can kind of be the barrier that needs to be.
Yeah, what's my choice? I mean, it will take me literally 5 minutes if I turn on the TV. Go to a news station, doesn't matter, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, it doesn't matter. And spend 5 minutes there. And pretty quickly I will begin to respond, react. The reverse of that is, actually a really good example for me, my meditation practice. I have many times come out of a 30-minute, 20, 30-minute meditation and sat in stillness and in silence. And my main thought was, where was that thinking that I had before I went into a meditative state? It was not there anymore. I wasn't feeling any of the stress or the tension or the anxiety. That was there 20 minutes prior. So the big question then is, why? What happened? What's the difference? And the only difference was stopping the mind, stopping the thinking, and going to silence, and going to a space where, when I take that away, when I take the thinking process away, what's left is spaciousness and silence, and, dare I say, peacefulness.
We're talking about human construct, basically, here. The ideas are human constructs. They're not based on anything spiritual in that sense. They're not based on that kind of base level we talked about before. Who am I? How do you get to the point quickly enough to realize that? Because many people come to the end of their lives and haven't realized that. Some realize it a lot sooner, and they take the steps. They put the buffer zone in. They remove themselves from that mental kind of torture. It's basically torture after a while. I got to get this done. I got to get there. I got to be there 5 minutes before. I got to. Where does that kind of process start?
I mean, that's a really good one, because we do get caught up in the whirlwind, the spin. And a very interesting question is, where did that start? What begins with that? If I'm in a position, or in a space, I should say, in a space where I feel reliant and confident within myself, if I feel self-sustaining, and that my self-awareness and my belief about myself is good, it's in a good space, I will feel much less of that whirlwind stress. For example, we just talked about it earlier. I played music for 40 something years, and I'm going to do a gig tomorrow, St. Patrick's Week gig. And I stressed a little bit about that because I hadn't done the Irish music for a long time. So I did my prep work and got everything lined up. Now, even though I'm going in tomorrow, it's a big dinner dance thing, with a little anxiety, a little apprehension, I also know, because of my own belief in myself, that I know exactly what I'm doing. So the stress is minimized to a much smaller extent because of the self-belief.
Well, I know in the working environment of a radio station, when I was interviewing people on a daily basis, it was my job to take away the idea of stress. And that's what it was. It was an idea in the interviewee's head. They thought I have to know all the questions. What's he going to ask me? What am I going to fall down here? Am I going to come apart here? Now, unless you're one of the world's biggest politicians and you're expected to be barbed here and barbed there, and even then, I think it's poor interviewing when you kind of attack someone. It was my role to kind of make them feel relaxed and realise that I was their friend. I was only there to extract the information on their expertise rather than them thinking, oh, if I don't know this answer and if I don't know that answer and I don't know. I used to see people coming in a little nervous, and I'd hoped that before the interview would start that I'd made them chill. So I did see stress in others on that kind of side all the time.
Interesting, excuse me, on the stress thing too. When you see it in other people like that, or recognize it within myself, there are a couple of components that are things that are happening physically and psychologically. Well, physically, we know heart rate's running, racing, blood pressure's probably been elevated. It's not sustainable as a human being to stay in a high stress situation. I guess it goes back to what I've read before many times: fight or flight. I'm either fighting or I'm flying. I'm running away from whatever. So if I can lose both of those components and realize that in the moment, again, it comes back to that, in the moment, none of that is real. I had a situation just today and yesterday with my wife Carrie talking about our good friend, a very good friend of ours who's going through chemotherapy and radiation right now. And it's very painful and emotionally draining. The family is completely drained by the entire thing. And the realization that I can only do in that situation is offer my prayer and offer healing energy for that family. And then come back to myself and be grateful for the situation that I'm in right now. Because I can see, like you said, I can see the stress in other people. But maybe in the process of seeing it in somebody else, also the mirror is looking back at me saying, wow, Frank, be grateful right now for what you have, because there's not a lot of stress here right now.
Taking it back to that kind of work situation, I was given a lot of people have said it about me. You're really cool. You're really on top of things. You just take things easy. And 95% of the time, that's absolutely true. It's largely because I kind of built that way of being and thinking. But on occasion, when I'm nervous, I still tell myself, I'm that person that other person sees. So I'm actually programming myself when I'm in that stressful situation, when it does get to me. And I find that works. So I'm programming myself, basically.
Tell me a little bit more about that when you say that.
So, for example, if you're presenting a radio program and you're standing in front of people and they're looking at you and you look, well, nice and easy, somewhere you've forgotten something and all of a sudden you remember that, oh, I haven't got this, and how am I going to introduce this subject, or what am I going to do here? And there's a little bit of anxiousness. And then you realize, I've done all this before. I can run the regular model here. I can let the engine run itself rather than having to stoke it with any fuel. And that eventually works. Maybe takes a minute or two or three or four. But I programmed myself and reprogrammed myself. This is easy. This is going to be easy. There's a great book by a friend who I met through doing radio programs in the last couple of years. His name is Tully Burkan. And Tully introduced the whole idea of firewalking into the United States. He discovered it from a guru in India, as far as I believe, maybe 30 years ago. His own story is pretty dark. In the early days, he tried to commit suicide twice. In fact, he faked his own death at one stage. Really remarkable character. But he has a book on the idea of this thinking and all that we're talking about stress. And it's called Let It Be Easy, where he actually starts to, when there's a problem amounting or something in the distance that needs to be done, he would use the phrases, let it be easy. And the more that he used the idea of let it be easy, that easiness comes along.
I like that.
It's a really, really interesting book. I must post it when we're posting again. So you start to talk in that sort of language to yourself and to others. Uh, I can't think of a direct example for. Well, I can. Something that's coming up next week. You know that I'm involved in. There could be a lot of stress in this. I'm trying a new technology. Will it work? Won't it work? I know that it will work. I want it to be easy. I let it be easy. And then the ease comes with saying that. It's a repetitive kind of process, but it works.
That's a really good one, Donna. It reminded me as well that only over the last couple of days, excuse me, I've spent time with a good friend, you and I spoke about it, who's in severe depression right now. And one of the things we talked about, it was at the point where, I actually had to ask the question, are you in danger of harming yourself right now? That's pretty serious when you get to that position. And yet, when I was going through the process of just allowing him to talk, just let it go, talk about whatever, anything that you want to. And it's repetitive. I could see, because I've been in that situation, and you have too, where gone through my own depression, looking at somebody, you see how much of it is involved in the thinking and how much of it is actually not real at all. For example, he's in the same house with the same people, the same family as he had a month ago or 6 months ago. No circumstance has actually changed. However, that's not his state of mind. His state of mind is one of, I don't know if I can go one more day. This is way too painful. And yet I'm not, gosh, I don't want to, because I have a huge empathy for my friend, huge empathy, having been there. And yet it challenges me to come back and look at myself when I see that type of situation and that type of thinking unfolding right in front of my eyes, to remember two things. One, I was there. And secondly, to always challenge my own mind on a daily basis. What is real? What is actually happening? Is there any cause for unhappiness today? And truthfully, in my life today, no, there is not. There's much to be grateful for. If I stay in the moment and stay current and stay present, there is no stress. Stress all belongs, like many times we've said, it belongs in thinking about yesterday and particularly in thinking about tomorrow. None of it is relative right now.
Fair insight there. We wish your friend well.
For sure, for sure.
And it's that usual kind of situation that if you find yourself in, the training, I know I've heard it before, I haven't been given direct training, is to ask the person to kind of speak the words. You know, is that the position you're in? For those reasons that, first of all, it's maybe the first time they've had to get it out there. Secondly, it alerts you to say, well, it raises your kind of awareness, as it were. What you can do in those situations is for you and that individual to decide. But those two things exist. And in itself, it must relieve the stress of being inside yourself all the time.
It was interesting with him because it did, when we asked that question and he thought about it and he said, no, actually, Frank, no, I think about it, I'll be honest about it. I'm not going to do anything. So for him just to repeat those words, because I remember repeating those words to myself and realizing, no, I thought about it or whatever, but I'm not going to follow through on that type of action. So there's immediate relief in that. Now, secondly, if anybody out there finds himself in this situation, and many of you may, with families, friends, folks at work, whatever, the next step with my friend was, will do I have your agreement that you will seek medical help now, today? And he did go to a doctor and he did go to a psychologist and with a further referral on to a psychiatrist. So that was a need for immediate action. Because where's the pain? Where is the stress coming from? In his situation, sitting at home in a dark room on his own, talking to nobody except himself in his own mind. So boy, it's very disturbing to have a friend go through that And yet it's also very enlightening for me to come back and say, we've come a long way, Frank. We've come a long way. And as most people out there have come a long way, never forgetting to take a moment to pause and say gratitude to myself and realize, boy, the fact that you and I, two guys in our 60s, who've come through all the things that we've come through, and yet we're sitting here willing to share our experience with anybody who wants to listen is pretty remarkable.
And never to demean anyone else's experience of the darkness, and those of you who perhaps are in stressful situations. And there's no guarantee that you and I won't be in a stressful situation again at any stage, but it's just realizing there's a way out of some of it.
For sure.
Of course, exercise is pretty good too, apparently. But
it's all part of it. Yeah,
we don't want to go overboard now.
Like the holistic approach. And I mean, and I'm pretty careful these days about what I do. What do I eat? What's going in? And the idea that food is medicine. So if food is medicine, what medicine am I taking? I mean, I'll splurge once in a while, but predominantly I'm very focused on, plant-based foods and really being careful with what I allow come into my body. I'm very focused on staying well mentally. I'm very focused on my recovery programs. I'm very focused on my meditation practice. So when somebody would look at you or I and say, "Oh, Frank's different today," or "Wow, he seems to be more at peace or more at ease," there's a reason. There's a reason for that. It didn't just, all is well. It didn't just spark out of nowhere. There's a process that I go through that on a daily basis that enables the maintaining of that lifestyle. I have another friend who, in recovery, had a crisis this week. Boy, it was a week. And he got to a place where his addiction flared up, but not in his primary addiction, in a what I would call a side addiction. There's really no such thing, but I think you know what I mean. And it brought him to his knees, literally to his knees. Now, the good news about that is, from what I gathered today, he has really woke up and said, "Oh my gosh, I got to get back to doing the things that were working for me in his recovery program," because he stopped doing it for a while. And the crisis led him to the space of, wait a minute, I'm doing some of the things that caused the problem in the first place. So I now got to go back to the things that are recovery based.
That's a pretty insightful kind of thing to be saying, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it's at the core of all of it. It's me. I brought this to myself. I know we've talked about it many times, but
Yeah.
that really is insight.
I was really actually grateful when I got that message to say that that's how he had perceived it today. And I'm literally talking today. So that was really good news.
We're at the point where we're going to look at what's always a great stress remover, our meditation today. So you give us an idea what we're going to kind of hear and feel during that.
So the idea today, as we're talking about stress, and the opposite of that would be ease or relaxation. So today we'll keep it very simple, just to bring our body initially, then our mind and our spirit, our energy, into a place of peacefulness, a place of relaxation, a place of ease. And we'll do our normal using our little chanting and our music to bring that space, because in that spaciousness we can hold ourselves at ease, and that's what we'll do today. Welcome back, everybody, to our meditation section. We spoke today about stress and the effect that it has on our bodies and on our mind. So this meditation is a journey into the opposite: relaxation, peace of mind, and ease. So in order to do that, we'll just prepare ourselves first. And an easy way to do that is just bring awareness to your physical body. Just feel your feet on the floor. Just become aware of your feet on the floor. If you're in a seated position, just feel your bottom on the seat. being supported. Feel your back against the chair. And then feel your head just sitting on top of your shoulders. And allow it to move for a moment to find its own place of resilience, its own place where it feels really supported. It's almost if you imagine like a children's Lego set. And you have that last block sitting on the very top, fully supported by everything underneath. Having brought awareness to our physical body, let's now take some time to bring our awareness to our breathing. And we'll just breathe as follows. We're going to use what's called a box technique. So we'll breathe in for 5 counts, for the count of 5. Hold our breath for the count of 5. Release our breath to the count of 5 and hold again for 5. So just follow along with me. Breathing in deeply to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Releasing the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And holding again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now just repeat that a number of times. Breathing in, holding, breathing out, holding. Allowing our attention now to stay with breath. If you feel yourself at all wandering, rest assured that happens. Nothing to worry about. Simply bring attention back to the breathing. Now we're going to go into music and chanting to create a spaciousness for us to feel at ease, to feel peaceful, and to feel the silence. Even though music is not silence, it can create a space of silence within us. So the task is simple. Relax, continue to breathe, and just envelop yourself within the music and the chanting. Maladaya Paraha Paraha Maladaya 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 Maladaya. Tarayurna Tarai. 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 Maladiya Mara. Oladoya. Moladoya. Moladoya Mara. Maladaya Para. Just staying with the music for a moment. Again, if you find your mind wandering, thinking, simply bring it back to breathing. Breathing in deeply, breathing out deeply. Reminding myself again, in this space, there is no tension. In this space, there is no anxiety. In this space, there is no stress. I now take that spaciousness and allow it to permeate through my entire physical being, to fill my mind with peaceful, easy energy, free from thinking, and just aware of the present moment. I just stay with that. and allow my body, my mind, my spirit to be at ease, to take a vacation from the stress of this world, from the stress of my thinking mind, and to be free. Now gently bring yourself back to present moment awareness. Just feel your body, become aware, bring attention to your feet sitting on the floor, your feet resting on the floor, your seat resting, your bottom resting on the seat, your head resting on your shoulders and neck, and realizing that this spaciousness of peace and tranquility, these moments we just spent there, are always available. When you're ready, just open your eyes again. And that concludes our meditation for today. Peace and joy to all beings on our planet. Namaste. Go in peace, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for another meditation. Taking stress away in virtually every case has to be. I'm stress-free for the rest of the week now after that. My name is Donald McCone. Thank you for listening to another Lighthouse Wellness Community podcast.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing us into your home or your car, wherever you may be. My name is Frank O'Connor. Namaste. We will see you next time.